Kuzampo, a very warm welcome to Bhutan This Week, our weekly news magazine program. I'm Pukkem. Our top stories this week. Yep, Tashu Ugedoji passes away at the age of 94. PDP submits its comments and suggestions on the Fourth Pay Commission's report to the Cabinet. And Labour Ministry finds students under Learn and Earn program in Japan facing problem of meeting expenses. Yep, Tashu Ugedoji passed away peacefully in the early hours of Sunday at his residence in Punakha. His Holiness the Jikampu, who was present, conducted Poa. The Gesetiku, senior monks of the Jatsa, Yum Tujizam and other family members were present. He was 94 years old.
Tashu Ugedoji is the maternal grandfather of His Majesty the King. He was born to Tanglatiku Sangitenzin and Ashidoji Om in the year 1925 at Kungacholing in Paro. Having lived through the reigns of 4 kings of Bhutan, Tashu Ugedoji's life reflected the growth and development of Bhutan. He was known as a pioneer among entrepreneurs and was among the first businessmen in the country. Yap set up a store in the 1960s near Tashichozong, being one of the first to do so in accordance to His Majesty the Third Drugyalpo's wish to establish a town in Thimphu. Later, as Yap settled in Nupgong in Punakha, he continued to expand his ventures, growing apples, setting up sawmills and establishing various businesses. In his personal life, Yap was a devout Buddhist and sponsored the construction and renovation of many temples and religious structures across Bhutan. One of the most significant of his religious projects was to rebuild Sanchekor. During the consecration ceremony in 1991, His Majesty the Fourth Drugyalpo conferred the red scarf to Yap Tashu Ugedoji. In course of time, he restored many temples such as Kungacholing, Sancheko, Pankarpo, Dojagalam, Talu, Kuruthang, Shekata and also built the nunnery of Wolakha. Yap Tashu Ugedoji was married to Yum Tujizam and was father to their Majesties the Queen Mothers. Kilitem for BBS News.
The People's Democratic Party submitted their comments and suggestions on the Fourth Pay Commission's report to the Cabinet. The party wants the government to consider it before tabling it to the Parliament. The press release from the party stated that PDP, being the oldest political party, has a sacred responsibility to provide position or alternative policies on any new policy initiative of the government.
The first recommendation is to equally divide the allocated budget of 4.2 billion Newton for the salary revision among approximately 40,000 civil servants. By doing this, each civil servant would get an increase of nearly 9,000 Newton on their salary. And this would push the minimum salary of elementary service personnel or ESP level to nearly 16,000, which is above the minimum wage. The government would then actually narrow the gap. The Pay Commission had recommended the salary increase from 14 to 29% with higher rate of revision at the lower position. The PDP is also proposing to review and provide salaries to local government officials and not leave them out of the pay raise. Given the high budget allocation in the 12th five-year plan for the local government, the party feels it is important to raise their salaries to higher level official and not lower them. The salaries of the LG officials today is mapped with P2 level officer in civil service. Next, the party suggests for a uniform house rent allowance of 30%. Otherwise, the recommendation to increase 30% house rent allowance for term-based appointees against 20% for regular civil servants will create disparity in the system. The PDP also does not support the practice of providing domestic help and dedicated pool vehicles for the residence of a minister. This, the party says, was done away with during its tenure. Further, the party proposes to keep the TADA and mileage claim uniform for all civil servants irrespective of grades or positions, since it is to meet expenses while traveling on duty. The party calls upon the government not to interfere with the royal honor and monetize it as well. PDP also suggests looking at the annual salary indexation in civil service. The party is apprehensive of its effective implementation. Indexation is one of the methods to compensate partially or fully the rising cost of living on an annual basis rather than waiting for spikes in every 4 or 5 years. The Fourth Pay Commission recommended increasing fuel price by introducing additional taxes, but PDP proposes the government not to introduce any new taxes on fuel. And regarding the home loan scheme, the party requests the government to apply the scheme to all private and public sector employees too, particularly the retirees, and not just restrict it to civil servants. Besides these recommendations, PDP also requests the government to include few of the government's pledges in the Pay Commission's recommendations, like giving vehicle quotas to all public servants, including public corporations at least once for those who are not eligible, and fortnight salary disbursement. The party appeals the government to consider the larger interests of the less privileged in the civil service and the country before considering the Pay Commission's report. Sunampem for BBS News.
The College of Language and Culture Studies in Tongsa compulsorily retired 9 lecturers and 1 supporting staff. They allegedly sexually harassed the students. The college took the decision after 19 girls lodged a complaint to the management requesting immediate investigation a few weeks ago.
The compulsory retirement order was issued to 6 permanent lecturers, 3 contract lecturers and a supporting staff. According to the college administration, this special investigation was conducted jointly with officials from Royal University of Bhutan.
The University Code of Conduct and Ethics, the University Human Resource Rules and Regulation 2017 clearly states that assaulting or threatening any staff, student in any form, beyond academic reasons is also one serious misconduct. And then engaging in physical, inappropriate touching the body parts and this kind of things were strongly spelled out in the student statements.
The management could not establish the illicit relationship as everyone involved denied the allegations. The college said losing 9 lecturers will have no impact on the academic sessions.
Our academic session, is till the end of May. By June, we start our examination. So most of the modules are more or less covered. But if there are certain portions of the modules still yet to be taught. Now that one, we have other teachers who can take up this one because teachers are not heavily loaded with just teaching load. Then in the next semester, the modules that are in this semester will not be, there in this next semester.
Meanwhile, the accused would be allowed to remain in the college campus till this Friday. The college will file a case with the police soon. Meanwhile, 2 of the accused that I met did not give any details. This is Pasa, BBS News, Tongsa.
Commissioning of the 720 megawatt Mangdechu Hydropower Project's Unit 1 or first turbine was successful. However, the full power generation and sale would begin only from July, with the 3 remaining units generating power. The Unit 3 and 4 are also almost complete.
The first turbine started generating power this week. However, it was not at its full capacity due to maintenance of leakage and defects in some of the tunnels. But according to the authority, such problems are considered minor and normal during testing.
Taru chutamlu begomi ladinga chigi dudo delu ta judi dudebal tena unit tombadi nga chigi commission de chaumom de boda ma chondel thapne de nga charo June July na de in the trupto dem ponimel ta judu dolo yalma chu achri za beudolo de malu chudung nolu chudi ma phopshimna chudi ma jab zogo bebal nga chi tenju tatugi nimchini chigi tatigi be bizli de zo tong ma chin te yalma nyang kha bom su them chin te de chaja ge khaplu bom ponime.
The project takes minimum of 3 weeks to spin a turbine after the water is discharged from the dam. However, lesser time was taken to spin the Unit 1 turbine.
Tarigina de Nim Denalo unit tang badibedi. Then Niba Sumba de Anebe Betsubiriwa Beudolo. Nim Chutam Rigi Panoko, Ngachigi, unit tong bada Nibagi Panoko, Nim Chutam Sumba Jiba Panoko, Nim Chutam Rebe. Ani nonke Beudangachigi in the Demgi Julu Kaira Tomitsukase.
Each of the 4 units or turbines has the capacity to produce 180 megawatt of electricity. The project is funded with 70% loan and 30% as grant from India. The two governments recently formalized a starting tariff at 4.12 Newton per unit for 35 years. The tariff would increase by 10% in every 5 years till the loan is paid and 5% thereafter. This is Pasa, BBS News, Tronsa.
Incinerators to dispose infectious waste, consistent water supply for proper hygiene and cleanliness, and healthcare infrastructure inclusive for people living with disabilities for a better rural healthcare facility. An international team made these recommendations to improve rural healthcare in Bhutan. They made the recommendations after visiting basic health units in Wandifada and Punakha. The team, comprising of participants from 8 different countries, is in the country to study water sanitation and hygiene in rural healthcare facilities, that is BHUs. They found that BHUs are challenged with shortage of drinking water, lack of facilities to dispose health and infectious waste, and that the healthcare units lack inclusive facilities for people living with disabilities. Healthcare units in rural areas and especially BHU in Shangana Jimmy Geok of Punakha lacked proper waste disposal facility. Likewise, BHU in Popji in Wangdi was facing water shortage.
We saw a few bins for general waste and sharp objects and infectious material. But the way they dispose it outside of the health unit is challenging because they just throw it in an open, deep pit. They burn it.
I think one of the key things that we found is just the limited access to water in the healthcare facility, the lack of a constant water source, particularly during winter months, and currently they don't have a water source because of a recent rains, and now the spring isn't feeding the facility.
They shared that lack of such basic necessities in the healthcare units should be addressed to improve rural healthcare facilities. The team will share the findings with the concerned agencies so that they can look into incorporating the recommendations into their developmental plans in future. The team also visited and made recommendations to improve healthcare facilities at the Punakha District Hospital and National Referral Hospital.
Some of the findings may be important to the programs within the Ministry of Health so that we can also improve on the number of programs that we conduct in those health facilities. However, I think I must remind that these are only the 4 health facilities that the findings that they have come up and does not necessarily represent the entire health facilities in the country.
The team is in the country as part of an exchange program to learn and share experiences and lessons on ways to improve water sanitation and hygiene in rural healthcare facilities. For Chengadoji in Wandifada, Pupgem for BBS News. A record number of teachers leave the profession voluntarily every year in Bhutan, and the number is only going to increase in the coming years. According to an education expert, Andreas Slasher, this is happening not just in Bhutan but all over the world. Teacher retention is a global problem and a concern, and it is not to do with low salaries. He said it is about making it intellectually attractive.
As per the Annual Education Statistics 2018, a total of 355 teachers left the profession in 2017, of which 263 resigned voluntarily. While the report only highlights the number of teachers leaving the profession, it does not explain the reasons. But as per Andreas, the expectations placed on teachers are high and growing. People expect much more from teachers than what appears in their job description. And to that, the education systems are not keeping up.
Why do people become teachers? not generally to earn a great salary, because they want to make a difference. They want to help young people to develop. So it's important to give them the opportunity, not just teach hour after hour in the classroom, but have time to spend time with individual students, to know their students, to know how students learn, to invest in the development of pedagogical practice, to have opportunities for good professional development, for good professional collaboration. Those are the things that make all our jobs interesting.
He added most schools look much the same today as they did a generation ago, and this has left teachers with fewer opportunities to develop the practice and skills required to meet the diverse needs of today's learners. He further added that it is important to build on the expertise of teachers and to include them in policy making.
If you look to a country like Finland that has the most, has made teaching particularly attractive, that's what they've done. They created an amazing environment where teachers every day discover new things. It's not only students becoming lifelong learners, but also teachers are lifelong learners. So I think that kind of work organization and environment, it requires school leaders who are not just administrative leaders, but who are instructional leaders, who encourage their teachers to frame good practice, to invest in their own development, in the development of their colleagues. Sort of that kind of work organization is what makes teaching attractive.
The Teaching and Learning International Survey showed when teachers teach a class jointly, observe other classrooms regularly, and work collaboratively to make learning more fun, they are more satisfied with their careers and they feel more effective in their teaching. The question is, are schools providing enough opportunities for teachers to participate in this kind of collaboration? Sonampem for BBS News.
Globalization and technological innovations are creating both new demands and opportunities. How do we respond? How do we prepare students for jobs that have not been created? Andrea Slasher, an education expert who was in the country, said, "The present way of schooling is becoming obsolete and there is a need to reframe what young people need to learn, equipping them for their future rather than the past."
Andreas is the author of the book How to Build a 21st Century School System. He is a researcher in the field of education. He said producing more of the same knowledge and skills will not be enough to address the challenges of the future. He said Bhutan is very much in line with what the world requires, but it is important to build this more constructively into learning environment.
We talk about social skills, but then we sit students behind individual desks, and at the end of the year we test whether they are better than their neighbor. So I think there's more work to be done to build the kind of learning environments that support us, and also to build the kind of 21st century teaching practices to better support it. It's about, having teachers who are mentors, who are coaches, who are designers of innovative learning environments.
He said rather than just learning to read, 21st century literacy is about reading to learn.
In tomorrow's world, after school, nobody is behind you anymore. You have to be able to expand your own horizon, to continue learning throughout your life. And that capacity to develop the right approaches to learning, the attitudes to learning, requires a very active role of learning. In the past, learning was a very passive experience. The teacher talks, the students sit here. In the future, students are the agents of learning, and they develop together with their teachers a learning environments.
He added that cutting and pasting solutions from anywhere in the world is not the solution to make teaching more engaging.
What you can do is you can look very carefully what makes different education systems successful, and then to think about how you can configure those ideas in your own local context and in your own educational aspiration. For example, how has Shanghai or Vietnam, how have they been so successful to attract very talented teachers into very challenging classrooms and to create great leaders into the most disadvantaged schools? How has Finland made teaching so attractive? How has Canada been able to educate very diverse student populations? How has Japan supported social and emotional learning? I think once we understand the different kind of approaches in education, we can learn from the world.
International comparisons are not about copying things from elsewhere, but to help one understand the strengths, weaknesses, and adopt a way forward. Sunampem for BBS News.
The Labour Ministry finds that students sent under the Learn and Earn program in Japan have problem of meeting expenses, which includes tuition fees and loan repayment. Bhutanese officials visited Japan last month to assess the situation of the students.
A delegation led by Labour Minister met 144 students, and a 3-member team comprising of officials from Labour Ministry and Bhutan Development Bank met 219 students. And they found 72 students are employed while 79 are looking for a job. 229 students are currently studying, with 129 joining vocational colleges or universities. 226 have returned to Bhutan and 18 are expected to be back home by this month. The team could not get appointment to meet 13 students. Of the 219 students, only 51 have applied for loan deferment scheme. The team also found that students were having difficulty in meeting expenses since they have to pay tuition fees and loan simultaneously while have to learn and work. Students said they had problems with loan repayment, visa extension for those continuing language course and others joining vocational colleges. It also includes finding jobs and a working visa. But the team also found out that some of the students placed by Bhutan Employment overseas are doing well and have managed to secure full-time employment. According to a press release from the Labour Ministry, the agent and students had contradicting ideas, particularly on the utilization of loan amount and payment of initial tuition fees and dormitory charges. However, most students are interested and willing to stay back in Japan to continue their studies or find a full-time work. The Japanese authorities recommended that those students placed through LEP but were unable to secure jobs could apply for Technical Intern Training Program and the new Specified Skilled Workers Visa Scheme after they returned to Bhutan. The Ministry of Justice recommended the Bhutanese government to consider signing a memorandum of cooperation for the new visa scheme. The Japanese government and its relevant authorities have assured to support to address issues which include facilitation of visa extension of students continuing with their education and those who have found work. Kilitem for BBS News.
Now, lack of female coaches, poor incentives, lack of parental support and favoritism in selection procedures are some of the factors restricting women from pursuing their passion in sports. Athletes from various federations shared these challenges at an open forum in Thimphu recently. The forum was organized by the Women and Sports Committee of the Bhutan Olympic Committee. More than 20 women athletes from various federations joined the open forum today. At the forum, they shared that lack of motivation from coaches, inadequate sports equipment for women athletes, and lack of career opportunities in sports are also some of the reasons why lesser women take up sports.
Most of the girls comfort zone at least
most of the federation in our country do not have female coaches, so girls do not find it comfortable with male coaches when they are having problems. Like the most common problems girls have is menstruation. During period we cannot undergo hard training, and it's not comfortable for us to go and talk to our male coach. Due to lack of proper incentives, parents are not very supportive. Rather, they want their children to study and get a job with distance pay. They see no source of livelihood from pursuing sports.
In Bhutan, I think especially with our parents, some parents are still very conservative in their thinking. So, and as a woman and being participating in sports, they expect women to stay at home, focus all of their energy on studies and everything. So there's that restriction from parents and their willingness to allow their daughters to take part in sports.
The committee decided on 3 long-term goals to be achieved within 5 years. One is to have at least one female coach in every federation to improve women's participation in sports. Likewise, athletes and committee members recommended that BOC employ at least 3 female physiotherapists for sports women. The committee also proposed to have at least 30% women's representation at the federation's executive committees.
Through this workshop, we have been able to identify the challenges faced by the female athletes, and they have also given us feedbacks and
ways to break the challenges, and we hope that from this workshop we can collect the data and information and put it in the action plan for their benefits.
The open forum, which will be held regularly henceforth, is aimed at paving the way forward to improve women's participation in sports. Pupgam for BBS News. That's all we have for you this week. Thank you for watching.